I'm Russell Beard in Massachusetts, USA, where for some people, saving the planet is a matter of life or death.
And I'm Tamara Sheward on Australia's Great Barrier Reef, where the tide is turning against coral-killing starfish.
On the range of low to high end, you have a 20 gauge steel, then an 18 gauge steel, a 16 gauge steel, you have stainless steel, and then at the very top you have bronze and copper. You can pick what you want on your hamburger in America, then you can pick what you want your casket to look like and things like that. So there's a lot of options, and we just try to offer as many as we can.
Would we be able to lift it, you and I, just here?
Absolutely. I don't know, got any muscles?
Oh man, so there's no one in here, is it? Right. Death can be a messy business. By the time most of us die, we will have accumulated toxins and heavy metals into our bodies, which, if we are cremated, get released directly into the atmosphere. And it's not just these direct environmental impacts that we have to worry about. In America alone, 2 million caskets are buried every year, along with 1.6 million tons of cement and enough metal to build the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm Russell Beard in Massachusetts to meet an environmental group who are charting a greener way to the great hereafter. 3 gallons of toxic embalming fluid such as formaldehyde are used per person, and with conventional cemeteries hosting 1,000 bodies per acre, this soon adds up and can seep into the groundwater. Glenn and Carol from the Green Burial Committee want things to change.
What you have really here is a landfill. You have a toxic waste landfill. It's not a pleasant thing to think of.
It's not, is it?
Alongside embalming, in the USA, coffins are set in a concrete liner called a vault. You can see the side of the vault right there, the cement side. So the top collapsed. So the larger the void underground, the larger the vault, the more soil falls down into it. If you know anything about soil, and that's what I've studied my whole life, soil is a composite of all of the life that has occurred on that place over thousands of years. And in a natural burial, we're really part of that system. You would be recycled and you would live again. And you know, that's really a great concept. That instead of being buried in a cement box, you're part of a flourishing ecosystem instead.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
When it comes to making this decision, I'm guessing you've already made your decision.
Yeah. Personally, I would like to be composted.
Really?
You'd be surrounded by wood chips and you would heat up pretty fast.
Wow.
And up to 160 degrees and there'd be almost nothing left except compost after a few weeks.
So we've come to Arlington to meet Ruth Fass. Now, she runs an environmentally friendly funeral home, and it's called Morning Dove. And it's around here somewhere. There are now hundreds of alternatives to metal and hardwood coffins, and Ruth Fass has become a big supplier in New England.
But this is a casket made out of banana leaves. And I love the fact that this would be waste. This would just be wasted.
Using all natural materials means that they break down in soil in no time at all.
There's a saying, we die as we live, but it hasn't always been true with our funeral practices because we haven't known, and we haven't known there are options. So you can see it's not a very elaborate showroom, but recycled paper.
This is what I want, definitely. This is definitely what I want. This is great. Oh, wow, this is a DIY. It's kind of a flat pack.
This is a shroud, so it could be in a green cemetery. You could just be laid in the ground in this.
There's actually somebody in there.
There is. Yep. And so that this would be buried at a shallower level than the 6 feet under, where.
That looks amazing.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
That's a cardboard one. And that's the one that has this, yeah, it is. That's the one that has this kind of insert, which I've left out of a different cardboard one
Well,
to
that
show
sits in the bottom
that,
of it to keep, it from...
corrugated. You're going to be fine carrying someone on that.
And then you'll go into the ground and then, cardboard in a very short time.
Yes.
A little bit of rain.
And so again, you know, somebody has said to me, I don't want a casket that's going to biodegrade faster than I am. So, okay, I'm going to, you know, respect that. And then, so maybe she would want to go for wood or something like that, or the bamboo. But on the other hand, if it helps us think about we're going to die and we want to live our life now and prepare for that and make our peace with that, then that's a good thing. Hi, Eva. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good. How are you? Okay. Here's Russell. Let me introduce you to Russell.
Hello.
Russell, this is Eva. Eva, Russell.
How are you?
Let's revisit the...
Eva wanted to show us a coffin that she'd picked out, a simple cardboard and wood carrying case normally used by crematoriums.
Are you in the market for a coffin, Eva?
I'm not in a hurry, as far as I know, but I'm certainly interested and been looking.
You would fasten that.
It's probably the lightest one too, isn't it?
Yeah, you
I
can.
think that's right.
I mean, we can lift that on our fingers.
Yeah.
And that's not going to take too long to. That's not going to hold up the process. Let's put it like that. It's pretty low tech.
As some of you know, I've been working with others to try to establish a cemetery for natural burial in Massachusetts. If we succeed, I will buy the first plot. If we don't succeed, I'd like to go to Cedar Brook in Lymington, Maine.
This is not like any other road trip I've ever been on, I have
Why?
to say, Eva. Well, we're going to find a funeral site.
Oh, right.
And yet it's a sunny day and it feels quite nice.
Yeah, I might end up there.
You might end up here. Do you think that it's a cause?
I think it's a cause. Every year in the U.S., we bury enough concrete, because they insist on these grave liners, to pave a road from New York to Detroit. Huge amounts of formaldehyde, which is used in embalming. None of that stuff should go into the ground. Mourners may decorate the coffin, sing, play music, talk about the dead or their own feelings, the place, or whatever matters to them that day. I must admit, I wish I could be there. It sounds like fun.
He was buried March 10th, and
This year?
this is Peter's gravesite.
But this year?
Yes, he and I have been life partners for the last 15 years, just 2 months ago today. We have 150 acres here, and 3 of it is devoted to the
cemetery.
Cedar Brook, the cemetery. And
How many do you have room for? As we figured that out.
No, it's not laid out in rows like you have in perhaps a regular cemetery. People come and select a site because they might like the way. A lot of people have selected sites along the stone wall. They like the feeling of comfort. Some people like the fact that the sun is shining on a particular spot. And right up here, we have one woman and her husband selected a spot because they wanted to nourish a chestnut tree. It's wonderful to see the psychology of people selecting their final resting place.
That's very nice there.
I mean, to the naked eye, really, you'd have to look very carefully to see any signs that there haven't been any burials here at all.
There are, I believe, 5 people buried right in a row here.
That's a nice one, isn't it? What do they call that?
Yeah, right, there's got its cap. I'm not sure what the cap is for.
It's great, isn't it? Apart from this wall, you just wouldn't have a sense. Really,
It's just woods.
It's just woods, isn't it?
There is a whole thing of if you're not buying some elaborate box and spending a lot of money, you're not really honoring your loved one, assuming you actually love the person. I mean, there's a lot of plain bull. I mean, I haven't found a spot yet. Are we standing on somebody's grave?
I don't know if we would even know if we were.
You wouldn't know it. Yeah, it's nice. I'm not going to decide today.
It's a fast-growing practice. There are now 37 natural cemeteries in the US and over 200 in the UK. Eva and the Green Burial Committee are still waiting for a plot in Massachusetts.
The ozone layer allows life to exist on the surface of the Earth. As the earliest forms of life evolved, the toxic atmosphere and unfiltered damaging ultraviolet radiation from the sun restricted them to water. Chlorophyll evolved in aquatic photosynthetic bacteria 2.4 billion years ago, and slowly, the concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere increased. The harmful UV split these oxygen molecules and created ozone, or O3. The UV also reacted with the newly formed ozone, splitting it back into its constituent parts. This circular reaction absorbed UV radiation, preventing it from reaching the Earth's surface. Less harmful radiation and increased O2 meant organisms could evolve physical adaptations and leave the protective layer of the water to populate the land. So simple life created the conditions for complex life to evolve. But in the late 1970s, scientists discovered that ozone was being destroyed faster than it was being created, especially at the Earth's poles. As the ozone layer depletes, harmful ultraviolet radiation reaches Earth, causing skin cancer and eye cataracts, as well as affecting crops and ocean plankton. The cause of this depletion turned out to be human-made chemicals used in everything from fridges to fire extinguishers. A significant proportion are gases known as chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. When these chemicals reach the ozone layer, once again, the sun's ultraviolet radiation converts them to highly reactive atoms, which destroy ozone. Under certain conditions, like the cold yet sunny climate of a polar spring, one of these atoms can destroy many thousands of ozone molecules. And in 1985, scientists discovered a hole in the ozone above the Antarctic. The world had to act fast. In 1987, nations came together in an international agreement to gradually phase out the production and use of ozone-depleting substances, known as the Montreal Protocol. Since that time, it's been updated and ratified by all 196 UN members, and emissions, which peaked in the 1980s, are now in decline. Some of the banned substances can linger in the atmosphere for 100 years, so the ozone layer will not mend straight away. But it is expected to replenish itself by the end of the century.
It's taken 500,000 years to grow and less than 3 decades to decimate. Australia's iconic Great Barrier Reef is on the edge of extinction. The world's largest reef system has lost half its coral since 1985, with 42% of that devastation linked to the venomous, voracious Crown of Thorns starfish. I'm Tamara Schuard in Northern Australia, where plagues of the predatory sea star have proven almost impossible to control. This is the Crown of Thorns starfish. Spiny and toxic, it's breeding in massive numbers on Australia's Great Barrier Reef and can eat its own body weight in coral every day. Scientists believe that a combination of global warming and nitrogen-based fertilizers from onshore agriculture may have created the perfect environment for the coral-munching starfish to thrive. If nothing is done, it's expected that 90% of coral cover on the Great Barrier Reef could disappear within the next 10 years. Coral reefs are laid down by billions of tiny animals called polyps, which live in colonies. These coral polyps secrete hard calcium carbonate exoskeletons to support and protect their bodies. Each different species makes a different coral structure. The Crown of Thorns eat coral by extruding their stomachs out through their mouths. The coral tissue is then liquefied by digestive enzymes secreted from the stomach, allowing the starfish to absorb the liquefied coral nutrients. I'm 2 hours offshore, heading for the marine research vessel The Escape, where Margie McKenzie and a team of divers are fighting to prevent outbreaks of the Crown of Thorns, also known as COTS, from reaching prime tourist sites on the Great Barrier Reef. Are COTS actually native to the Great Barrier Reef?
Yes, so they do belong.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. The issue is there's too many of them. They're in plague proportion. And that means that they're eating so much reef, the reef's no longer sustainable. So what we're doing in there is we're going in and culling them to a level that is sustainable.
The team is preparing a solution containing sodium bisulfate, a dry acid that's deadly to the starfish, but needs to be injected into every limb to be effective. So we've got Tony over there with his gigantic underwater camera, and Margie is now attached by a super long audio cable, which is hooked up to a special mask so she can actually speak while she's underwater. And they're actually recording the research and work and culling they've been doing of the Crown of Thorns starfish.
Now this is a relatively quite small one, but that's really good because we want to get these guys before they really start breeding. They've become a total pest. I like to call them the cockroaches of the sea. And Maddie's got to inject them in the stomach several times and then also in each leg. Otherwise these critters can just walk off and regrow. So that's well done there, Maddie. He's now going to become fish food.
This is the only way to be sure that a cod has been killed. Even if pulled apart, scientists believe that, like other starfish, there is a chance each part of the original starfish could regenerate into another adult capable of breeding.
So this is a fairly small Crown of Thorns starfish. You can see the poisonous spines on top, full of toxin called saponin, which once it gets into your skin will start to rot the flesh. They can grow up to about 80 centimetres across. They can spawn up to 60 million eggs. Yeah,
60 million.
60 million. So they are extremely fertile.
With the Crown of Thorns starfish now at plague proportions, current control methods are struggling to keep up with the onslaught. But Dr. Jairo Rivera from the Center of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies may have come up with a solution. Whoa! It's huge. It looks kind of like a cactus gone wrong. Yeah. So these spikes are all poisonous?
Yes.
And what would happen if I touched one?
Your finger is going to explode.
In fact, the toxin would seriously affect me and could even lead to paralysis. So here we go, picking up a big bowl of starfish. Oh, he looks like a porcupine mixed with a slug. Oh yeah. Let's... I was out on the reef and having a look at how the divers are controlling the COTS now with the dry acid, and it's very complicated.
It's very complicated. It's 6 to 8 injections. They need to inject 6 arms, then the oral disc. With this technique, we only need to inject the starfish once. So this is the protein solution that we use. It's called oxcal. It's dehydrated fresh bile. Bile is a digestive enzyme that is produced in your liver, stored in the gallbladder, and then released into the gastrointestinal system and helps to absorb vitamins and lipids.
Dr. Rivera's team was experimenting with proteins when they discovered that ox bile appeared to cause a violent reaction in the starfish. Okay, so this is really just bile from the stomach of an ox.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
10 mils of this. Ox bile is often used as a health supplement for humans, but it's not so healthy for the starfish.
Select one arm.
The ox bile promotes the rapid growth of Vibrio bacteria, which live naturally in the starfish but will happily attack their host when proteins in the bile give them the right conditions to bloom. What is happening now? This starfish is doing a little bit of a jitterbug here.
They show hyperactivity during the first 2 hours after the injection. Then you will see a lot of mucus production. After that, blisters, then open sores, exposure of digestive glands, and finally dead at 24 hours.
Well, I feel a little bit strange because I and my needle here pretty much just condemned that starfish to death.
Yes, but it's for a good cause.
I'll return in 24 hours to see if Dr. Rivera's one-shot solution has done its deadly job. But for now, I'm heading inland to the sugarcane fields. Part of the answer to the Great Barrier Reef's problem lies not underwater, but deep in the agricultural heartland of northern Queensland. John is one of a growing number of farmers who are cooperating with a project known as Reef Rescue. Their aim is to stop rainfall washing agricultural fertilizers into the ocean and nourishing the Crown of Thorns starfish. Oh, that was a sudden little burst of rain.
Yeah, burst of rain there, yeah. So this is what causes a little bit of trouble. It depends how fast it comes down, depends how much runoff we get, so that's what we're trying to stop a little bit of the runoff.
Reef Rescue have been helping control runoff from John's farm by planting buffer zones between his crops and a nearby river. They've also funded new farm equipment that keeps the fertilizer in the ground and away from the ocean.
What we do with this one is minimum tillage. Instead of working the whole ground now, we're just working about a 500 mil band on both sides, and I come along there with the tractor and GPS and plant the plant straight into that.
In addition, fertilizer is drilled directly into the ground rather than spread on top of the soil. The tops of the sugarcane leaves are also chopped and laid down between the rows to protect the soil and fertilizer from tropical downpours. So this is good for the environment as well as being good for your farm?
Yes, it definitely is. It's being minimum tillage, we're not working all the ground, so when the rain comes where we've got bare dirt situation, we're not losing it all down to the rivers. And by putting the fertiliser underneath the ground, it's helped us enormously to keep the fertiliser where it should be, not just sprinkling on top and letting the rain take it away. So it's working well for the environment, also working well for us.
Back at James Cook University, I'm about to find out if Dr. Rivera's ox bile solution is the nail in the coffin for the Crown of Thorns starfish.
Okay.
So let's see what's happened to my friend the starfish.
Let me show you your little starfish.
That is the starfish. That actually doesn't look like anything anymore. It's just a mess. That's incredible.
It's falling apart. I think we are helping the Great Barrier Reef. We still need to do a lot of field tests, but I think we're going on the right path.
Dr. Rivera believes that in the ocean, the bacterial infection caused by ox bile could even spread to nearby Crown of Thorns starfish, much like a naturally occurring disease. If so, this discovery could mark the end of their reign of destruction, and the Great Barrier Reef could be restored to its former glory.
So they're really well adapted for life in water, aren't they?
Yeah, their hind feet are webbed, and basically...
I've got it. Oh!